Sure. Welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. I think some of you have been on a little longer than others. I appreciate as Bert and I catch up. But anyway, thanks for joining us. We're hoping tonight Bert Bender, our council new member coordinator, is going to talk about the role of our parents and den leaders inside a family-led program throughout this fall, and include some other key topics and updates. We've set up a Q&A in this webinar format. Certain times, and definitely at the end, Bert will call and we'll be able to look at any questions in there. And it's not, it has to be limited to the specific topic of tonight. Obviously, we want to stay in the realm of membership and what the fall looks like. But feel free to ask away, and we'll work through those questions. I believe the format is about 20 to 30 minutes of topic discussion, and then we'll stay on for questions as long as needed. We've still got some people joining in, but I think it's after time. So Bert, if you want to go ahead and get started, go right ahead.
Absolutely. Thank everyone. I thank everyone for showing up and dialing in here. And the topic tonight is going to be the deepest dive we've done since, since all of this started, about what the heck does Cub Scouting look like when everybody is, or most people are forced to be physically distant because of this pandemic. So we've entitled this, we're going to look at this from the standpoint of the den and pack leader. And so the program we've got is called Den and Pack Leader Roles Now with Family-Led Adventures. So I'm going to run through some slides as I talk about this, because I want to give a background into what the thinking is here. We miss these activities, but as we look at the photos that are up here, you're sort of cringing and going, oh my goodness, is it safe? We can't do that. But then the question is, what do we do? And when we think about the great classic program, most of it is built around den and pack group activities. There's a little bit of family activities at home, but most everything that's fun about Cub Scouting is getting in a group and, singing songs and playing games and kids grabbing each other and all that. But the question is, how do we do that now? And taking a step back, a question that I've got is, what is success in what we're doing? Is it based on how many attend a meeting? Or can we look at success as how many do a scouting activity whenever and wherever they do it? And to that end, there's many program options. It's possible that in some places in the council now, and hopefully more soon, you might be able to do in-person meetings, sort of like before, but probably outdoors, probably smaller. So like den meetings, and doing them safer with physical distancing and sanitizers and parent chaperones to be sure that the kids are in fact staying apart. But we know that that's not permitted in a lot of our common meeting places, schools and churches and such. And even when they do open the doors to us, it might not be popular. It's the Jason Baldridge admonition of, if you can do it safely, will people come? And we know that there will probably be, for the foreseeable future, a lot of parents who say, nah, it doesn't sound safe to us just yet. We'll be there, but not just now. So another option is just to do everything in a screen like this. But as many people have already realized, that's often hard to do. It's not as much fun to play a game in a screen as it is to play a game on a playground. There is some level of Zoom fatigue, and as now we get a lot of schools teaching remotely, there's also issues about Zoom availability and Wi-Fi availability. I have friends who they've scheduled their day around the kids doing classwork all day, and then when school is done, that's when they have to go to work and use the computer to do their job and remain employed. So that's a partial solution, but not a full solution. But maybe there is another option that can be put into the mix, and that is family-led. where you build the bulk of your program around family activities at home. And you do have den and pack activities, but that's going to be less of a thing since they have to be smaller and safer. Den and pack leaders, though, will have a role, as I'll get to. Now, historically, in a leader-led group program with den meetings and such, you have a lot of benefits because you have great leaders leading a room full or playground full of kids, and that's a terrific program. We've always had challenges, and for years we've bemoaned that it's sometimes difficult to recruit enough leaders or engage them so that they deliver the great program. Many PACs have struggled and failed if they didn't get the leaders who could actually lead in the field. Other benefits, though, to a leader-led group program, you know when it's going to be. It's at the same time and same place. The challenges exist with that, though, because there are some families who, when they look at when Cub Scouting is offered at their school or in their neighborhood, they say we can't do it on that day, and so we miss out on them. Another benefit, group activities are super fun, but right now, needless to say, group activities have COVID risk. A benefit for a lot of people is that the group-led program, the leader leads it all. If the den leader's showing up, the den leader's going to deliver a great program. And the challenge there is to involve parents. That's a special skill for den leaders and pack leaders. And it's a bit of a challenge because there are some parents who we all know too well are happy to say, no, I'm cool. You lead it. You're good at this. You have a khaki shirt. You got square knots and all that. And we'll just sit back, or even worse, we'll just drop off and run an errand for the rest of the afternoon. Another benefit of leader-led group program, it's a tradition. We all know the den leader role, the Cub Master role. They're leading the cheers. They're doing everything. But the challenge is doing all that is hard. But the question is the den leader really need to be the only leader of the kids in the den? Can we engage the parents to do that and have the den leader be an intermediary, not directly with the kids, but directly with the parents to give them the tools so that they can lead their kid in activities that they do at home with their family in their neighborhood at a time and a place that's convenient for them. And I think that's possible. And it's also consistent with some great thinking about Cub Scouting. A great writer about Cub Scout theory would always admonish that you never want to do anything as a leader that you could get another parent to do. In part, that was to create an example of a parent becoming more of a leader, because in the eyes of their child, he thought the best gift for a Cub Scout is when the parents get involved and the parents are seen in the community, and most importantly by their child, as a leader who's leading the community and helping out. And that's a great thing to give a child. So in a family-led program now, we got challenges. Number one, engaging parents to lead their own kids. That's kind of a switch. The benefits, though, where we're going to be able to make that happen are enormous, because we will have more parents more engaged in leading their kids. The challenge is there's no regular time or place. You know, when somebody says, you know, when is Cub Scouting, you might not be able to say, oh, it's Tuesday at 6 at the school. But a benefit is, if that family can't do Tuesday at 6, they can do it on demand. There's going to be some families who, frankly, could binge a lot of adventures over Labor Day weekend, do the Scouting on Demand cookout, do other things, and get a lot of scouting activity when they have free time. Challenges. Historically, leader resources, how to lead Cub Scouting, have been hard to access. You have to go buy the guide, and you have to find, you know, the right way to deliver the guide in their multi-meeting plans. But as we'll see in a second, and many of you have already seen, we are breaking down that barrier so that parents and leaders will have scouting resources on demand that they can use to deliver scouting for their kids. A challenge, whether you're meeting in person or whether you're uh, doing this as a family-led program, is communication. It is just hard for everybody to get the message in the right way. Everybody wants to think there's one way to communicate. So that will take some effort, but hopefully through that, as families are remote, as they are physically distancing, we can create community by sharing photos, videos, stories in a community on social media through school and other resources. Another challenge is there's sort of new roles for den leaders here that we'll get to, but a benefit is if den leaders become guides to parents, there's less den leader meeting work because the actual leading of the scouts won't have to be done by the den leader every other week. It'll be the parents doing it, and the den leader is simply guiding them. So, what does this look like? Maybe instead of leading all the scouts, you're a guide to parents so they can lead their scouts. Some ideas about that: there is no silver bullet to communicate. For some parents, it's going to be pulling up the link to a website on their computer. They'll get it by email or text or off a website. For others, and frankly, for den leaders, for most of the time, you should pick up the phone and call them, because all scouting is local, and it gets super local when you have a den of 6 or 8 or 10 families, because you can really find out what their questions are, what their needs are, what their opportunities are, you know, to encourage them to really fully engage with their kids. So resources. We have, in the last few weeks, a new Cub Scout advancement page that has shareable links to adventure by adventure resources. Those pages have videos, they have plans, including we're now up to 34 family-led adventure plans, links to information so that parents can be expert in the topic of the adventure. We have a family-led fun planning page that really gives you a theme month by month, so that if you have, for example, kids, you know, multiple kids in a pack, which is not uncommon, you can all do the hiking activity in the same month. They're gonna overlap a lot. So we've actually planned out a year of that. We've got the first half year posted. The second half of the year is gonna post soon. And then coming soon will be the Scouting on Demand page, which will add a lot more content, including a lot of local Atlanta contact. Plus, parents they can take a peek in their kids' handbooks. So let's take a quick look. I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm going to go back to looking at the the Cub Scout advancement page, just to give you a look at what that looks like. So it's in advancement, Cub Scout advancement. To find resources, you click on the applicable rank. So here's Bobcat. All your new joinees are going to want to earn that. And we have what the requirements are there. We have ideas about how to do it, including a family-led plan where you can give them some information about how to sit down and do an activity with their scouts, where they have an opening with the family, where you review the Bobcat requirements, and a few fun ways to do it. Like, here's a roll the dice review that you could play with the scout, so that you work on the 6 elements of Bobcat that don't involve talking about child abuse. We suggest, hey, if your kids are learning how to say the Scout Oath and Scout Law, now's a great time to take a video and share it with the rest of the den, share it with your family, share it with your friends, to let them see Scouts in action. That's part of creating the community and getting that out there. And then if you really want to have fun, especially those who have ever been to one of my trainings, oh, go ahead, have a family game of Balloon Stomp Battle Royale, and the description is there. This the resource page and this plan include links to how to get that, how to protect your children from child abuse page. And it includes really the high points of that, so that parents can have an appropriate discussion with their child, since we want them to have that discussion. So we want to make those resources available, and that's one way they're available for the Bobcat rank. Let's take a look at Wolf. Same sort of thing. It's going to list required adventures. It's going to take you to a resource page where you can get more adventures. But here, let's look at a hiking adventure. Pause on the path. We've got a family-led plan that a family could do if they want to go on a 1-mile hike. And there's also other resources. In the past few days, a number of councils have had their videos published on the national page about various Cub Scout adventures, and we have posted those up as they appear. We've got other videos that dive into things like the 6 essentials, the outdoor code, leave no trace, so that if you don't want to have to read the whole plan, you can watch it and absorb it that way. We've also got in the required adventures for the age ranks some streamlined plans that if you're going to do it as a small, dense, socially distant, safe, physically distant hike, you can actually hand that out to the families who are attending and have parents who are on the path with you lead different parts of that, so that you can ask them, hey, could you talk about, the rules for hiking safely? And they may say, oh, I don't know that. You can just point that out here. Could you talk about that? You could, point out, somebody talk about preparing for the weather? And there's a space to talk about that. You could ask someone to talk about the buddy system if they don't know what it is. There's notes about that. All they need to do is read it, and all of a sudden they'll be the expert on it. So those are some of the resources we've provided for individual adventures. All right, let's go into a new screen now, because one of the other elements we have that supports the family-led program besides the advancement page is the recruiting resources page. So let's take a look at that, where one of the elements, and by the way, to get to recruiting resources, you go under volunteer recruiting resources, and one of the pages is called a family-led fun program. And it describes this idea that we've been talking about how a family-led program could work with family activities, den coordination, some pack activities if they're small and safe enough. And it also is going to give you a potential month-by-month set of themes, like August, doing bike riding, Labor Day weekend, maybe do some games, September, go hiking, October, camping, November, citizenship. And it's going to give you, if you download the flyers at the bottom, a potential pack flyer that you could put probably on the back of a photograph flyer that has photographs, maybe the council version, or you could just share the list. And I'm going to show you what one of those looks like. Here is an adventure for the bear den that you could send. It's just going to focus on the adventures that bears can work on. It's going to show, let me pull this up now. It's going to show what a bear den can do. For example, for their games, maybe they do the rolling laughter adventure loop. For hiking, they may do fur, feathers, and ferns. For camping, bare necessities is right on point. For November citizenship, pause for action is the one you want to do. And it's going to give you links to our advancement pages for that. And that will be a way that families can do the activities that are called out for the bear rank. And frankly, if they do these, they're going to be just about one adventure away from the bear rank by the time they get through the first of the year. So let's roll back into the PowerPoint and talk about what a family-led program could be. It could be your primary program delivery. Maybe it's what you do until school is fully open. It could be half of a hybrid program where you may have some small events in person for some, and family-led adventures for others, because you may know that you can only have so many people gather in one place at a time. And there may be, some families who say, yeah, we just don't want to gather with anyone other than those who are in our quarantine bubble. And for all groups, it can be supportive group events that are done in person, because the more parents have access to these resources, the more they're going to be able to help Den and PAC leaders put on program at Den meetings, at PAC activities, at campouts, hikes, bike rides, and the like. So what does a Den leader do? Number one job is communication. Let people know what your program plan is, let them know what your themes are, so that they can see what it is you're going to do. And if you're doing things around the same time, generally what you're going to be doing. You don't have to use the themes that we have on the program, parent-led program site in recruiting resources. You may decide bike riding's not our thing. You may decide instead that you like fishing more. So do what your family's like and follow that theme. Advanced communication will involve sharing those adventure resources. You probably, if you pick an adventure you're going to do, like Fur, Feathers, and Ferns for a bear hiking adventure in September, you probably want to send that out to the members of your Den, or send all the hiking adventures to the members of your PAC so that they can click on the link of the adventure they like to do. How will you send it? There's no one way that works. You have to sort of use every way that will work, or the ways that work for your group. So it could be email, could be text, could be website, could be Facebook page, could be Zoom meetings like this. And you'll probably, especially as a Den leader, need to pick up the phone and talk to your parents about how to do the events, because they'll have very specific questions. All scouting is local, and when you get it down family to family, it becomes hyper-local. That communication will also be super helpful for when you do in-person events, so that as a Den leader, you're sharing the lead with other parents, because if you're doing small, safe events, you want parents to participate in leading and know that they just can't sit back and look at their phone. They'll probably have to be making sure their kids are safe if you're doing a socially distant, physically distant event. And sharing those resources is going to be super helpful also for stay-at-home families. If they miss the meeting or they don't want to do group events, it'll let them know what to do and when they can do it. Speaking of what to do, we flagged on the program, family-led program page, that everyone can do a cycling activity when they, no matter what age or grade they are. And some of you may say, oh my goodness, that's a tiger loop. So only first graders should be allowed to do that. And second graders, third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, and kindergartners cannot earn the Rolling Tigers loop. I would like to say that Baden-Powell would say that's wrong. Here's the rule. If you're not in first grade, you can't use Rolling Tigers as the elective for your rank this year. But if a scout does the bike riding, completes the requirements, let them earn the loop. If getting the award is what motivates somebody to get up on a bike, the fact that they're in the fourth grade shouldn't keep you from recognizing them for what they did. And for a lot of kids, earning the loop, earning the award, getting the recognition may be what gets them out there and gets the family doing the activity. So about the only adventure you would prohibit being completely done by a scout is the adventure called Bear Claws in the third grade, where they would be using sharp knives. You don't want younger kids doing that until they have the ability, the fine motor skills. But most everything else, let them roll with it, because if it keeps some family interested doing what they are really keen on doing, that's great. They're staying involved. Second activity for Den leaders is you might become involved in event broadcasting. If you're doing you're doing adventures, you might pick a time where, not that everyone has to do it at that time, where you're going to broadcast to them your live experience, whether it's bike riding or hiking or fishing or uh, building a fire, and do it over Facebook Live, maybe Zoom, or maybe just take pictures and video and share it later. So that could be from home if you're doing it completely socially distant, or it could be from a small group event where maybe a few of you are getting together to do something safely in a small group. As a den leader, could you event broadcast a full den meeting or maybe just talk time sessions? Absolutely, but keep these in mind that especially for Zoom events like this, you want to keep it simple. You want to make it fun. And that's hard on Zoom. Uh, it's more attractive to have fun events where you're not inside of a screen, especially for younger kids. Keep it safe. Be sure there's enough parent helpers if you are gathering in person. And if you're having group activities, you are supposed to have a couple registered leaders. So encourage other parents to get that youth protection training and apply. Use your resources. You're going to have parents who, now that they see adventure resources, are going to be able to be experts on that and heroes to their kids when you're doing events, whether in person or whether you're doing it over a Zoom, so that you as the den leader aren't the only one who has to lead everything. Now, a suggestion, do you need to do all parts of a den meeting? There are some people on sites who just agonize over that. Oh my goodness, how am I going to have a good gathering meeting, gathering activity? And what's a really great opening ceremony that will grab people over Zoom? Answer, not many. It's harder. It's harder to make that impressive. And you might think about what's essential when you are Zooming with your den, because what they may want is talking with each other. Talk time may be the most important thing you do when you Zoom with the scouts in the den and their parents, because the kids who are physically distant, who are schooling remotely, or who don't get that after school time running around with their buddies, they may want to just talk with each other, and that should be okay. That can be the most powerful thing, both when you're doing scouting live or when you're doing it over Zoom. Third idea about working with parents is have follow-up communication whenever you do an activity. If you do something but other parents can't, be there or be part of your live broadcast, do a rebroadcast. Share pictures, videos, stories of what you did so that they can watch it on demand on their own time and own way. And share it in many ways, because if you've got cool content, a website page, emails, newsletters, not just your pack, but encourage people to share stuff on their personal Facebook pages with their friends. Maybe your content's good enough to go up on school or church or community sites or Facebook pages. And encourage everybody to do that so that it's not just the khaki den leader who has to do that sharing. Another super important thing about follow-up communication with everybody is give them recognition. Let scouts know, that they are applauded for what they've done. And maybe more importantly, in these times, applaud the parents, recognize them, make a big deal about any parent who participates, thank them profusely. So that's going to cause them to feel good about being recognized. And it's going to cause their kids to go, you're a hero for being here and for what you did, leading me on that bike riding or hiking or fishing adventure. Last idea about follow-up of a den leader with parents is make time just to talk with the parents. Maybe have a den parent happy hour where nobody's in uniform and you all just talk about these times and raising kids and how we get through all this, because they need that. Now, some parents, especially returning parents, are going to have a plea. They're going to say, why should we pay to join Cub Scouts if you won't lead all of the Cub Scout activities? And that's going to be a tough one. I mean, most of us leaders who are actually parent leaders, we're probably looking at that somewhat askance and thinking, well, wait a second, we're parent leaders too. Why do we have to lead your kids in Cub Scout activities when you could do your fair share, which, if you think about it, leading your own kid is a pretty fair deal. It's not unfair at all. But we still have to give a value proposition as to why parents should join. So, first idea is there's no pandemic pause button on raising kids. So, we're going to do Cub Scouting because, frankly, Scouting helps raise kids. And doing the activities that come with Scouting that are in those handbooks is going to be a big help. And we can help each other if we as a community raise our kids through Scouting and share what we're doing with each other. Youth operating manuals. Handbooks are full of things that are age appropriate, age related, a new operating manual on what you want your kid to know. And the fact that you can sell that to families and let them know this is a way to raise our kids is going to be a great value that a lot of families should want to be involved in. Last comment, a Scout leader is patient. Some families are going to want to do more, some are going to want to do less. Some can do it now, and others, they may just want to binge it later on demand. And that's all cool. We want to make Scouting completely no stress so that people don't feel like, oh, if I missed it this month, I'll never catch up. Through Scouting on Demand resources, we're going to make it possible for parents to pick up and join and do Scouting at any time. What questions do we have?
All right. I'm looking through at some of the questions. I think most of them are going to be more related to membership in general. I'll give a second here to see if any more populate. But I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you putting these together, Bert. I think, as you mentioned, that right now this is a really challenging time for leaders and for parents. So the more that we can do to equip our DEN leaders and our parents to operate a program, the better. And I think these are really outstanding ways that we can do that. So I just want to say thank you and leave with that. We had a few comments to that area. We may get some more that are back on the topic. Oh, so Kaylee asked, what of these resources can we share out to the pack?
So like the adventure resources,
Mm-hmm.
all of them. And granted, there's, some families are going to want more than others. That's where the DEN leader comes in. They're going to be, a common thing would be if you have figured out what your plan is so that for example, hey, weekend before Labor Day, let's all do a bike riding activity. Go ahead and circulate the bike riding activity from it's actually called Rolling Tigers. It's the only bike riding adventure in Scouting, in Cub Scouting. And you could send that to everyone. Then follow up with individuals because they may want to say, ooh, how do I really do this? And they can look at the plan you've got, or you might want to roll them through some of the videos that are there, because it's going to give them videos about how to do bike riding safely, how to follow rules, how to teach their kids, and it'll give suggestions about where to do it. Suggestion, don't do it on the Silver Comet Trail with young kids because they'll get blown away by the pelotons, but there are hundreds of places to ride bikes safely. And so some that will just need that focus so that they know that it's okay to, bike ride right in the neighborhood if they have a safe neighborhood for bikes. But it's all there. You can also, as you get to know families more, you can know what their interests are. And if, for example, you have a family that is like super interested in art and you're thinking, I cannot draw with crayons and stay between the lines, don't assume that you have to lead art, but let them know they can go do it as their own personal family elective because that's what they like. And when you see the advancement resource pages, you will see that menu that's available to them. Now, before we go to the next question, I want to just address the fact that some people in the audience may think I have committed heresy by suggesting that non-first graders could earn the Rolling Tigers Adventure Loop. Let me suggest that no, it is not heresy. It's exactly what Baden-Powell would have intended, because you want kids to learn how to ride bikes. If kids are motivated to do it because they can get a belt loop, let them. Will it count if they are a third grader towards their bear rank? No. Will it count to getting the belt loop if they complete the requirements? Yes. And if that gets kids riding and families riding, let's go for it. And that really applies to just about every adventure except bear claws, where you really don't want kids younger than third grade picking up sharp knives. Most of them could be done if you have kids who are super into gardening, planting things, and they're in fourth grade. Well, let them do the lion adventure on growing things. You know, if that's going to keep them going, go for it. What's next?
I love the encouragement on flexibility. Some have asked for this slide presentation, and I think we can make that available afterwards, either through emails, or are they posted on the Southern Crescent website?
This slide presentation?
Yes.
This would be ideal to post on the family-led program page. So, George, I'll get that to you so that it could be put there along with the updated flyers that we've prepared.
Great.
Because, you know, if you want to use this in a parent presentation or in a leader meeting back in your home unit, go for it.
Two questions kind of related. One of them is, do you have any suggestions for making crossover ceremonies meaningful in this time?
My short answer is most crossover ceremonies will be happening in the spring, and I hope things are better.
I think it's for the ones that we kept hoping things would get better, so we haven't done one yet, and they're already in sixth grade. So
I would suggest go to Cub Scout Volunteers on Facebook, join that site, and search that, because there are a lot of pictures and videos in that community that show people who did imaginative bridging exercises, crossover ceremonies as kids are going from rank to rank. That includes things like drive-through ceremonies. It includes things like drive-in ceremonies. I saw a really creative video where somebody shows kids walking across a bridge wearing their old hats and neckerchief colors. And then I assume that they had an assistant cub master in charge of TikTok. In the middle of the bridge, they change into the new uniform colors and, you know, jump for joy as they go off the bridge. So there are a lot of people. If you just go to Cub Scout Volunteers and say, I need good crossover ideas, go. There will be people who will respond to you, probably 30 in the next 1 hour. So
awesome, and a wealth of resources for other things too. The other related one is, with this fall is usually when our PACs go around and visit troops. Any suggestion for ways that PACs can get to know troops when they may not be meeting in person?
Contact them. Be a scout. Every troop ought to be on there. You may have a list in your district, but contact them. Find out how they're meeting. You know, while it's hard for younger Cub Scouts to really engage over Zoom, one of the things I've liked watching our troop over Zoom, and they have kept meeting all spring and summer, is in the spring, the 5th graders were not shorter than the 11th graders, because on Zoom, everyone is the same height. And I think it actually gave some of the 5th graders power to speak and to do things over Zoom. So even though they weren't meeting in person, they got to participate. And if troops are having meetings over Zoom, yeah, 5th graders ought to participate in that. And the Scouting Adventure page that we've got through the Atlanta Area Council website will give you tips about how to do that. But the key is see what the troop's doing and see how you can latch on.
Awesome. Two other ones, and they may be more directed, but I can cover real quick. One was a quick recap, or I guess question about dues for our national BSA fees for 2021. And just as a reminder, there was a change with that. So it's $42 for adults for the 2021 year and $66 for youth as you're planning your year and collecting dues. I don't know if you want to talk about planning and having a packed budget might be relevant here, but it's something we definitely need to be ready for in the fall.
We could do a full session about how to budget, and I actually do have a real super detailed budgeting tool about that, because the impact of some of those fees is way different on a small pack as compared to a large pack. If you have a pack of 10, the $75 unit fee hits you a lot harder than if you have a pack of 100. So, and depending on what your plan will be to fundraise and how much you will actually buy for your pack program, will impact your budget tremendously. But let's think about getting that together for maybe late September as packs are going into the upcoming year.
It's a whole nother topic for sure. And the last one is that I see, unless there's some more that come in here. I was a question about Trailblazer and Spooky Re and if they were still happening. And what I see right now, and Bert, please clarify if you've seen something that I haven't. But both events, I guess one's multiple days, but both Spooky Re and Trailblazer are still on. The capacity has been dropped dramatically, and I believe one of them is even a day-only program, the one in September. But both those events are still moving forward. They're going to happen. They've added additional cleaning crews, and I believe they're also planning, instead of the what I call the Six Flags model, where scouts go to where they want to go, they actually travel in pods or in groups, so they're not interacting with the other groups as directly. So remains to be seen. We're still, I guess, from the first one, we're still 6 weeks out. So not saying that something can change between now and then, because as we've learned to discover this year, we have to be prepared because things might affect us. They are still moving forward with those two events.
And that's the sort of thing where you may have, some of your families who want to go, and other families who say, I'm not sure I could control my kid. And I'm back when I was in the kid raising business, I would be like, I have no idea if I could control my kid. And so you might actually have, the more mature scout and family go to that event and live broadcast it back to families who are doing their own backyard camp out during a Spooky Re weekend. So that's an example of sort of a hybrid event that could be done.
Yep. And I just posted in the chat, Ben was able to help us out there a little bit. There actually is a webinar for parents that have questions about what Spooky Re is going to look like tomorrow night. And I put the link in the chat, which should have the time, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, specifically for questions about what Spooky Re and I imagine what Trailblazer will look like this fall.
All right.
I don't see any more questions. We're happy to stay on if there's any more. But I thank everybody for coming in. And then Bert, do you want to give us a sneak preview of what our topic might be for next week?
What did we say it was going to be?
I have it in my notes.
I think it was I think it was the importance of conducting an orientation meeting with your parents. Oh no, that was going to follow. Next week, we're going to talk about online applications.
Live demos on setup and online applications.
Yep.
Automated emails, how to handle new applications, and how to follow up with parents.
That's what we'll do. That's the plan.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and looking forward to seeing everybody next week, same time, same place, and where you registered, you'll be able to select other dates. Looking forward to having everybody back again next week.
Thank you, everybody.